Somebody You Love is recorded on the stolen lands of the Darug, Gundungurra, Ngunnawal and Ngambri peoples.
Welcome to Somebody You Love, or The Sale of Two Titties. I'm Jenna Love.
And I'm Holly Hart.
And we're experts in disappointing our parents, breaching community guidelines, and banging the people who vote against our rights. Today we're going to be reacting to the 1990 film Pretty Woman. It's important to note before we start, though, that neither of us have done street-based sex work. We've not worked in the late 80s, early 90s. That would have been impossible. And neither of us have worked in the USA either. So we definitely don't have lived experience that is comparable to the main character's work or life. But this film has had such a lasting impact on the perception of the sex industry as a whole, so we thought it was worth breaking it down.
Also, there will be spoilers, obviously. It's a really gripping, complex film, so we really suggest that, you don't let us spoil anything for you. Get out there and watch it yourself.
Oh, the
first.
Twists and turns. You'll never see them coming.
Yeah, we don't want to ruin that for you.
Okay, so the first thing we see is that George Costanza is in this movie. I did not know that. I didn't know he was anything but Seinfeld. I thought he was just George Costanza. So there we go. Then we meet Richard Gere. So he is a big, fancy businessman. He does lots of talking on the phone. He can't hold down a relationship. He's very important. And then he steals George Costanza's car. So great. Then we meet Julia Roberts, who is waking up, getting herself dressed and ready. Is a bit of a montage moment. Now, she is so fucking hot.
She's beautiful.
Oh, my God.
The whole way through the film, I kept...
know.
I mean, the beauty of youth is one thing that just
yeah.
I kept thinking in my head is just youth is so precious and you can just... There's something about youth. You don't realise until you get... And I'm sure in 10 years' time, I'll look back at people my age now and be like, oh, your baby's the beauty of... it's just... Yeah, there's something so precious.
How old was she when this was filmed?
I think she was about 23.
Yeah.
Or maybe 20, somewhere around there. So she's just a baby, but she is just also a stunning looking individual.
Yeah, she was 23 when it came out. So she, maybe younger than that, obviously, when it was made.
Beautiful woman.
Just, wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I really loved her, colouring in her shoes with Sharpie or with Texter. Have absolutely done that. Thought that was very accurate. Very good representation there. Big fan. Then Laura San Giacomo's name pops up on the screen. Did not know she was in this as well. Amazing. Big fan. And so Julia Roberts puts on this blonde bob wig. This not very good wig. And I think that my initial reaction is to roll my eyes and be like, oh God, that's so cliched. But actually a lot of people in the industry do wear wigs. It's not kind of entirely
inaccurate. Very bad.
And some of them are very bad. This is true. And wigs are so expensive and good wigs are prohibitively expensive. They're ridiculous.
Yes.
So fair enough. And yeah, I think a lot of my experience these days, a lot of the people that I know who wear wigs do so because in their real life they have very short or shaved hair, but they, for work, want to represent this kind of idealized idea of femininity where they've got long hair. So that's kind of their reason for doing it. Whereas Julia Roberts has this phenomenal hair and then she covers it up with this hideous blonde wig. But yeah. So I think it's in the way it's portrayed in the movie is kind of she's portraying a character and maybe there's this thing, this little veiled stigma of hiding from her true identity. But also some people do, use a character or like to put on a bit of a costume for the work to keep a distance between their personal life, and that's fair enough.
I do also find it interesting that when I'm skipping forward just a little bit, we'll come back, but when what the hell is Richard Gere's character's name? I'm just going to call him Richard Gere.
Oh, he's Richard Gere. I don't know.
I think
it doesn't
his name's
matter.
Edward.
He's
anyway,
a prop. He doesn't need a name.
I think he's surprised when he realises that's a wig,
I
know! Come on, honey. But it is so typical of men as well. There's so often that and we love you with all of the love, but there's so many times that we'll say things and they'll go, oh, that's not real. And you're like, oh, darling.
Yeah.
Very naive and sweet. And also
Absolutely.
when she loses the wig, when she takes it off or whatever, and he sees the hair, and I think she says something like, or he says something like red, or she says
think
red,
she
and
says
he
it,
goes,
yeah.
and he says better. And I'm like, it's really interesting because as the industry is now, red hair is the highest demand of hair. Like it's so
Absolutely,
popular,
babes.
it's so fetishized, and so the fact that she wouldn't be capitalizing on that is
Yeah.
really interesting. That at the time perhaps blonde was more trendy, or as you said, there might be other layers to why she feels that she
Yeah,
wants
I
a
don't
different
know. Those big
identity.
curly, those big red curls are so
gorgeous.
of the time. Like
Yeah.
it seems.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sold on that one, but I do think there is that thing where, like, I know of workers who go between. I mean, you're a worker who's gone between being blonde and brunette, and I know of workers who will say that they earn more money when they're blonde.
Oh, I
know?
mean, but brunette, I think is probably the lowest. I mean, this is totally
The
anecdotal,
lowest.
but the lowest income. Like, I don't think it makes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think as a blonde, I would have made a lot more money, but I reckon as a redhead, I would make the most money. So
It's fascinating. I just think brown hair is so beautiful. It's my favorite. But yeah.
I think lots of people want me to go back to blonde.
Mm.
I was amazed by her leaving the house fully dressed in her whore getup. She was leaving the apartment in the most indiscreet outfit ever. And maybe they live in a neighborhood where they just don't give a fuck, but with the discrimination against sex workers and just wanting to have some distance between your personal life and your work life and have some privacy at home, I feel like, and I mean, I guess they're young people, they could be out clubbing or whatever, but she screams hooker the way that she's dressed as she's leaving the house. So that seemed wildly indiscreet, but hey.
But I feel like I was thinking about when I've seen footage of like King's Cross, for instance, in Sydney in the 80s and 90s, people have been dressed not unlike that, where
But
they've got like
King's
a big
Cross.
coat on. Yeah, but this is Hollywood Boulevard.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm not
Is it
talking
not
about
the
for sex.
equivalent?
No, but I'm talking about when you're leaving home. Would you not cover up a bit and then put your be whore on the street?
Yeah, right,
Is what I'm
I
saying.
guess.
Like, I'm not saying
Right,
that's what
yeah.
hookers would wear, sure. But I'm saying,
Right.
you wouldn't walk out your front door in your fishnet stockings, and you try to at least
Yeah, I see
maintain
what you
some
mean.
some discretion around your front
Until
door.
you get to work kind of thing.
Don't walk out the
right.
front door with like your whore neon light on, so
Yeah,
everyone
yeah.
in your block and everyone in your neighborhood goes, "Wow, that's the whore."
Yeah. Yeah,
That just
fair
felt
enough.
really
Yeah,
indiscreet.
Yep, fair. Yeah, I did think it was I was like, wow, you are not wearing much clothing. Okay. And then we are shown a crime scene and we later find out that it's a dead hooker. So we're 4 minutes into the movie and things have started really well for us.
Yeah, really bad start, wasn't it?
Yeah, not ideal.
I made the same note. I wrote yikes. I did note during that little back and forth with Hank Azaria and a gentleman who was a witness in the area, the person that he's interrogating says that the sex worker who is deceased was a strawberry. And I was very curious what that means, so I looked it up. That is, or was, US slang for a sex worker who works in exchange for drugs. So, I'm not sure, where that comes from, in what way
what an
that's
interesting
strawberry. But yes, again, that was a really problematic dehumanization of that worker because she's using drugs. So she's disposable, so that was a little bit shitty.
And they come back to that towards the end of the film when Julia Roberts and, I don't know, Maya from Just Shoot Me, the two of them are talking. And like Julia Roberts says, oh, does it work out well for anyone? It didn't work out for blah and blah. Yeah. And then Maya's like, that's because they were crackheads.
Yeah.
So it's not, there's a lot of anti-drug sentiment in this movie.
I will say, as much as I am not at all in defense of that kind of rhetoric, because we don't support that kind of thing, I do feel like these conversations are conversations that you would hear between a couple of sex workers who want to, there's that natural is probably not the right word, but there's that hierarchy sort of thing that comes to a lot of sex workers who are in or feeling shame about their job or who haven't had a lot of community and who are sort of going, well, that's not us. Those things don't happen to us because we don't do that thing, and I think that's
absolutely
that is what happens to a lot of sex workers when they first enter the industry, is that they justify a lot of what they're doing by comparing themselves to people who are doing it the wrong way. And also, even with the interrogation or whatever the discussion is with the cop, sort of talking about, well, you know, she's just a sex worker who sleeps with people for drugs, so she's worthless. Again, it's a really shitty rhetoric, but it is legitimate. I do see that these are conversations that were had back then.
It is realistic.
And yeah. So as much as I'm like, ew, it's real. So yeah.
It is, but then I guess it's like, is it the responsibility of media to then have a commentary on that, not just leave it hanging there? Like, that's a totally acceptable thing for people to say.
Yeah, it feels like an endorsement of that.
But I do
view.
agree.
Totally.
Somewhat,
yes,
yeah.
agree.
So Maya from Just Shoot Me has apparently spent their rent money. But also, wait, didn't she spend the money on drugs?
I'm not really sure there.
Have I got that wrong? It seems...
I feel like she was just a party gal. Like, I feel like there was that vibe.
Yeah.
She's just having a good time.
Yeah, okay. I mean, and obviously, I don't care what she spends it on, but it's like, if you're going to be judgmental about people using drugs, then what the fuck? Anyway.
Yeah, she struck me as irresponsible. I think that was the character.
Yeah, I think that. Yeah. So they've got to go out and earn some money in order to pay their rent. So they go out to their kind of patch of turf. And I thought, I really enjoy, I don't know how realistic this is, but I really enjoyed them like using the Hollywood stars as markers for where their boundaries were. I just thought it was cute. It was a good little scene.
They also have a little pep talk when they're standing on the street there about being independent workers, and I thought that was so cute. I'm not sure whether it is that easy in the US on the streets, again, at that time or now. But yeah, they sort of talk about getting all the money themselves and not paying a pimp and that sort of thing. And it was very empowerment, and I thought it was a super cute little pep talk.
Agreed, yeah. I really liked that. What do they say? Like, we choose who, we choose how, we choose how much. Something like that.
Super
which,
cute.
Great. Like, that's a anthem, you know. Yeah. That's fantastic.
I felt like they seemed really indiscreet, but again, I don't know anything about that. As you said, it is probably the equivalent of like a King's Cross situation, so it's probably very much a blind eye thing. But I was thinking, wow, you're really not going to any pains to pretend that you're doing anything other than working. But that interested me.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I kept thinking exactly the same and being like, wow, this is overt, but then being like thinking of the footage I've seen of the cross and thinking, I guess maybe it's a similar kind of situation. And it's like, again, speaking from an experience I haven't had, I assume with street-based work, it's a really fine line because there's the element of discretion, but also you can't be too discreet or people won't know that you're available. Like, you know, I think that you've kind of got to be like, hello, this is what's on offer. So, you know, if you're just sitting inside, it's not going to work, is it? Also, some guy yells out and he's like, oh, can I have a discount? Oh, can I get a freebie because it's my birthday? And I was like, oh my God, is this movie responsible for all those guys who think that it's appropriate to ask for a discount because it's their fucking birthday? I think the film is at fault. All right, so Richard Gere pulls up. He's lost. He picks Julia Roberts up so that she can give him directions, which the logic is romantic comedying. Like, okay. Like, I don't know why he'd be like, yeah, sure, get in and we'll go. And then she's like, sure, I'll just drive to this random place. And then she has to get back. Yeah. And like, what's going on there? She's
delightfully charming. You know, I think it's, how could you not put that cute little darling in your car? She's so cute.
But, you mean but.
I mean, what?
But. You mean that cute little butt.
It's the personality that did it for me. I'm not that.
I know, but when she turns around, that's when he decides. We get that famous shot of her ass, and he's like, yeah, okay, get in. Anyway, I thought it was weird because as if, like, I mean, maybe she was really confident about her ability to turn it into a job. Because I thought, why are you going somewhere for $20 and now you're just going to have to go back home? Like, what's the point of this, you know? But maybe she was like, nah, I can get this.
I thought the same. Yeah, I thought maybe there was some confidence there. I was amazed that he, as you said, was driving his lawyer's car and that he let this woman he'd never met, he didn't know if she was licensed, intoxicated, just going to slam the car into something for a joke. No idea. Let her drive his lawyer's really primo car. So that shocked me.
Yep. Wild. But then he let himself drive it and he clearly shouldn't have been doing that.
Yes.
So,
and she clearly had a better grasp on cars than he did. So, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So then they get there. She waits for a bus to get back to, her office, her part of town. And then he's like, oh, actually, come inside. I will book you after all. So, yeah, he's been taken in by her charm. And you're right, she is incredibly charming.
My note at that very point is she is so cute. So, yeah, obviously I was feeling it.
Yeah, adorable. Yeah. They get back to the room, and then the movie kind of I feel like it makes this big deal about him being like different to other guys because he doesn't want to fuck her. Like, he just wants to spend time with her. And it's like, fuck me. Like there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that it's not that unusual. Like, it's not that he's this special fucking dude who actually really respects her. He doesn't just want her for her body. Like, true. Shut up. And then he's like, well, how much for the night? So he ends up booking her for the whole night.
I'd just like to jump in here. I did the maths. So she charges $100 per hour, which it's interesting. Good. She quotes him $100 per hour, which in today's dollars is $240. Their inflation hasn't been as insane as ours. Just having done a bit of mathing over this, but an hour today in Australian dollars is $360, which. Not at all bad, especially for street work, and I don't mean that in any disparaging way. But street work is usually renowned for being sort of shorter sessions and people being tougher on haggling. So $360 for an hour is more than I was accepting in my early days.
Same.
And then she quotes $300 for the night, which 3 times your hourly rate for an entire night is wild. But the conversion to Australian dollars for that is $1,080 for the night, which, when you're making $360 for 1 hour, does feel pretty wild. But I guess if you're getting on with somebody and you've got that rapport and all of that. So, yes, I'm not...
I guess is there also an element where, and this is not the case here because we see where she lives, but is there an element where if somebody were not housed... that they're also getting
absolutely
a bed to
it's
sleep
a lovely hotel, and it's one of those things where when you're already there with somebody, is it easier just to get that extra cash out of that person than it is to go out and get more jobs?
Or is that night. When you upsell?
Maybe and take advantage. Anyway, I did not. I'm not here to pass judgment on the pricing or anything. I just thought it was interesting, and I thought it would be cool to hear the actual conversion to today's Australian dollars, just for context. So
yeah, when she said $300, I was like, babe, this room was $300 every night. Like, this guy is clearly so loaded.
Exactly.
What are you doing? So then, they do start to get down to business. And she clarifies that her single boundary, the only thing she won't do, despite having shown us that she does carry condoms, so presumably there is an expectation for safer sex, but the only thing she won't do is kiss on the mouth. He also says he doesn't do that either, which, like, Richard, this is why you can't keep a girlfriend. Like, what are you Ew, why aren't you kissing people? That's very weird. But is this movie single-handedly responsible for this myth that SWs don't kiss because it's too personal? Yeah,
I think that historically there has been a lot of narrative that this is a thing that sex workers don't do. And I think a lot of sex workers have set that boundary just, for a multitude of reasons. But I think that this film has a lot to answer for in that regard. Absolutely. I did note that when they first enter the hotel, he gives her a coat to be discreet and she barely wraps it around herself. I had to giggle at that. I was like, you're not making any effort to be discreet. And then people are staring at her and she's provoking them. And I relate to that so much. And I think it's very sex worker to be a bit of a shit stirrer.
100%.
Another note here I've got is I think she's delightful. I think her portrayal is really nice. So I was just obsessed. I think we've just missed when he was being really morally superior about her not doing drugs. When he was like,
yes, we have to.
When he was like, I won't see drug takers, and he grabbed her by the arm, the manhandling, I was appalled.
Yeah.
Do not touch her. Also, just this take of like, ew, using drugs is awful, get out. Appalling. Such a turn off.
Yeah. And then it's like, oh, no, actually, she's wholesome. She just wanted to floss.
Yeah, come on.
Like, fuck off. And what if she was like, that was really agreed. Gross. Very good point. There's something else. Oh, yeah, I was going to say about her, like, not being discreet. I think there's some really great elements of this movie in terms of its representation. Like the fact that her and her mate are really out and proud, and they really are, like, you don't see any sense, I don't think, any sense of shame in what they're doing. They know exactly who they are. They're upfront about it. And I think that's really fabulous, especially for something that was made, 35 years ago. Like, I think that's really cool. And yes, I fully relate to being like, all right, well, if you're gonna treat me like a whore, then I'm gonna act like a whore. Like, that's what you get.
I made a note at that point that, God, this is making me love my job even more all over again. It's just, there's just so much about this film that really does just feel great, and it makes me really love my job. I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah. I expected it to be a far worse portrayal than it was. It's not perfect, right?
We've redeemed.
But I was like, there's some good in this.
Happy.
Yeah.
I love it.
I thought it was a decent film. I'll never watch it again, but it was decent.
There was a little hint of anti-capitalism, I felt like, when she's mocking his job for not making or doing anything, for buying and selling companies. And like, I was like, that feels a little, I liked it.
But also, how relatable is it? How many times have you sat with a client and they've described their job and you've been like, so what do you do? I was like, yes, I get that. I liked that. And it had an impact on him. He was like, what the fuck do I do?
Yeah. Where is my purpose and my meaning? And, not that you have to have one, but it was great that his whole thing was being a high-flying man, and we got a, bit of personal development there. The premise of their week booking didn't seem particularly outlandish to me. I feel like people would see this movie and they'd be like, hired for a week. But I sort of get it. He didn't have anyone in his life. He needed to go and schmooze. She seemed charming. And I feel like that was not, like you said, the romantic comedy is romantic comedying. There is a little bit of that. But it wasn't too wild for me.
I thought it was... It was very, clearly it was just, writers having to put them in this situation. Because, the next day, George Costanza's like, you've got this big meeting and you shouldn't go alone. Like, I don't really know why. You should bring along a random woman, he's basically saying. Like, I don't know why that would make the meeting better. And then Richard Gere's like, I have the perfect solution. And it's like, okay, but that's fine. In terms of the week-long booking, though, like, we have lives. You can't just suddenly be like, I'm keeping you for a week. What are you doing?
I don't feel like she did have much of a life. And what was it?
And she was obviously happy about it. Yeah.
Yeah, $3,000 for the week, which in our dollars today is is $10,800.
Yeah.
So, not bad money for a week.
Yeah,
where he pretty much said he was barely going to be around. So
and she was already obviously having a good time, and yeah, absolutely.
She did not take the money up front for that week though, which was wild.
Yep. And she calls Maya from Just Shoot Me, who's like, are you going to get that money? Like, and Julie Roberts is like, it's fine. He paid me for the first night. And like, no, babes.
Rookie error. No, babes. That's what it like most often happens. When you hear about like workers getting ripped off, it's like, I've seen him before, he was lovely, and this time.
Absolutely. Yeah. So correct.
Vivian seems to be her real name, and she seems to give it out to everyone.
Yes.
Which was really confusing.
But you know what? Like, they didn't have people stalking each other on Facebook then.
Well, that's so
like, does
true.
It?
Doesn't matter, does it?
Well, I don't. Yes. Yeah, I'm not sure. Like, I again, we haven't worked in this time period, but what are they going to do with the name Vivian?
Yeah, you're so right.
Like, now they can find out everything about us. You know?
They can track down family and screenshot things.
Yeah. And she's there. She's in LA on her own. She talks later about like she's not there with family. She's not like so. It doesn't really matter. Yeah,
you're right.
So Richard gives her some money to go and buy some lamer clothing than she currently has. So on Maya's advice, she goes to Rodeo Drive, and the staff there are all cunts to her. Ooh. And like, obviously this is, it's supposed to be portraying, like I'm not on the staff's side here, But I do think, having been raised in a retail business, that like when somebody comes into the store who is completely different to all the clientele that you've ever had come into the store, I don't think it's a surprise that they were a bit like, oh, wait a minute, who is this person? And I think particularly in a place like that, they quite possibly often had kids or young people coming in to try things on, smear their fucking makeup all over the clothing, and then go, oh, no, I don't want it this time, thanks, because they couldn't have, like, they were never intending to buy it anyway.
Okay.
And we used to get this in our shop all the time. It was really obvious when somebody was coming in to try things, get stuff fitted, and then they were going to go and buy it online.
Oh, okay.
At a cheaper price. So as obviously, like, they're total dicks to her, and that's not okay. But at the same time, I am a bit like, you know what? They're also then, like, just because they work in a fancy store, they're still earning minimum wage, and they're also not doing, well, they're working retail. Like, life sucks for them.
Yeah.
So I'm just like,
yeah,
I don't know. There's a little bit of, well, what did you expect, Julia Roberts, when you walked in there like that?
Yeah.
Like, what did you expect? But I guess that's victim blaming. So she comes back to the hotel, and Bernard Barney.
Is it Bernard? Yeah, whatever his name.
He's just like, wow, like, can you please stop prostituting yourself all over the foyer? But then he actually helps her out. He gets her an outfit sorted. He teaches her how to use 100 different forks. And like, obviously he's pretty judgmental in a lot of ways, but also they do develop this really sweet little relationship. And I think there is this nice element of service industry solidarity. Like, again, he's in a fancy place, but he's still not, I imagine, not being paid all that well, you know? Unless he owns the place, but I don't get that impression.
No. Yeah, he said he's the manager.
Yeah. So, I think there's a little bit of a, well, we're both working for the money here, you know?
I did think that he was a sweetie in the end, but I found it really weird how he insists on pretending that she's his niece instead of, why didn't they just say, oh, okay, his date?
Yes.
Like, why all the time did you have to pretend she was a family member?
Why has it got to be incest? Yes.
Yeah, why? Why not say,
Very true.
Yeah, you don't have to say she's his whore. You can say, oh, your date, your partner or whatever.
Yeah.
Very strange.
I think that was supposed to be because of the age gap.
I think the age gap was about 10, 15 years, but which to me, again, that's not obscene.
Like, I think Richard Gere was born looking like an 80-year-old man.
He is somebody who, like Steve Martin, just immediately came out looking 40.
100%. But then also in that time period, I feel like women looked a lot old. Like, the way she dresses when she gets her fancy clothes, she kind of looks older than she is anyway.
I think that's just because like the clothes look dated to us.
Yeah,
which
fair
makes
enough.
People look older. It's that phenomenon, you know?
Yeah, fair. Then they go to this important fancy businessman dinner that he wasn't supposed to go to alone. They have some important fancy businessman conversations. I wasn't paying attention. And then Julia Roberts references the famous SPC commercial saying slippery little suckers, which I'm now realizing was obviously referencing this movie. And I did not get that. And that's kind of weird because it's a kid in the commercial.
I don't know what SPC is.
Oh my God. What? It's like fruit, like SPC, like canned tinned fruit. And there was this super famous ad when we were kids where this kid's like trying to get it like a grape or something with its fork, and then it like slips out and he's like, slippery little suckers. Like, I thought it was a famous quote from a commercial. But I guess the commercial was referencing the movie, which is weird because why did they have this kid referencing a hooker? Like, what?
That is very
weird.
Interesting.
Yeah. Anyway.
I did find it bizarre that firstly she got him to order for her, which I would never, but I'm a fussy eater.
God, yeah.
But he ordered her the absolute most disgusting looking food. He got her it was like a sandwich with like a pate on it and then some snails and then like a mint flavored ice cream in it. Like, I don't even know if it was, but none of it looked, if you're going to order for someone, try and go safe. Get her a bit of garlic bread. Get her
she's a basic bitch.
Yeah.
Like, are you serious? Like, come on, this. That's what I think a lot of the times in this movie, I'm like, I understand we're here to represent that there's a big class divide and like that's an important thing to talk about. But why did you think she would fit in at your fancy restaurant? Like, why did you, like, what's wrong with you? Obviously, she doesn't know what, And I've been like that. I've been on bookings where I've gone to a fancy restaurant and I've been like, oh, why have you done this to me? I'm not there. Oh God. Like,
I'm not worried about acting high class, but just don't order me snails.
well,
you know?
yes, yeah.
I'm going to be a bogan, but
Yeah, well, that's the same. I'm not changing, but, you
Yeah.
know, weird choice for you to make, but whatever. So after the meal, so they're back in his room, back in his hotel room. They have this little like D&M on the balcony, and then he decides to leave the room and just leave her there.
yeah. And she seems disappointed that he's leaving. And
I
I'm like,
know!
that is creative, Vivian. That is very creative work because I love my clients, but I'm going to tell you now, if you're paying me for a whole night and you're like, oh, I'm going to go out for a few hours, I'm going to go, yes, I'm going to have a little nap, some room service and relax. So,
Absolutely.
I mean, everyone wants to get paid to do not much. So,
Of course, yeah.
So, yeah, her acting, oh, no, you're leaving me is, very
But
good work.
good
work,
acting,
Viv.
yeah, well done.
Impressed, girl.
Excellent. So then at 3 a.m, she goes looking for him. You'd be like, great, I'm going to go to sleep.
I just
But
want
she
to
goes
quickly
looking for him.
jump in and go, why the hell? I'm really unimpressed with him as a client. Just before he left, why didn't he order her some delicious room service? He saw that she struggled with the snails. She had that. They took the ice cream away before she was finished. If he's going to piss off for a few hours, order her up some snackies. Like that was a bit annoying. But anyway,
Good point.
Not a big deal, but I
She could
digress.
probably just do that and it would
Yeah.
be on his room anyway.
She
But
had
yeah,
to keep
agreed.
that tiny little 1990s figure, I guess.
Yeah, there was not much of her.
Yeah.
So she goes looking for him, finds him playing the piano. He kicks everyone out of the room, shows how powerful and big and strong he is. And then they fuck on the piano.
It was so awkward. Like
oh my God.
silence and then clunk, 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 of the keys.
Cringe.
Oh, it was the worst sex scene I've ever seen.
So cringe.
Very bad.
Like, how is he hitting the right keys for those like sexy, dramatic ding, ding, like, God.
And then just silence otherwise. It was
Yeah.
It was a hard watch. Yeah.
It was fucking cringy as fuck. But before they get to that, he tries to kiss her. And like, dude, she literally said she had one fucking boundary.
Oh, but he's different, Jenna. He's so different.
He just wants to get to know her. He wants to know the real her.
Oh, God.
Anyway, so she avoids the kiss, as she should, because great, that's a fucking boundary. Where did she get that underwear from? She's wearing like a sexy teddy.
I didn't notice.
Where did that come from?
Yeah, good point.
It's not, she only bought so anyway, that's just wild. So I wanted to tell a story here about years and years ago. I had a booking. And this guy booked a really fancy room and it happened, I don't know why. It wasn't even at the like kind of classiest of hotels, but this room had a baby grand piano in it. And he goes to me, oh, do you want to do like the Pretty Woman scene and bang on the piano? And I was like, I don't even know what that is. And I've grown up, I spent my entire life around musicians. Like I am not fucking with a baby grand piano. Like that shit, I'm assuming that would stuff up the tuning. Like that shit is, although if it's in a hotel room, maybe the tuning's already fucked. I don't know.
I mean,
the number one rule is that you don't touch someone else's instrument.
Yeah.
Like I'm not having sex on a piano that like.
especially Squirty McGee.
no.
Like you're going to get liquid
Squirty
in all
McGee.
sorts of
I didn't even think of
places.
that.
Yeah.
I was more concerned about it's just like rocking it and fucking up the tuning. Like unacceptable. So I think he thought he was really putting the moves on with that line. And I was like, no, it's a really expensive piece of equipment. No. Yes. Do you have anything?
Nope,
Any other comments on the cringy piano scene? My God, it was a hard watch. Oh,
It was, I'm scarred.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the next day, she's like, oh, everyone was mean to me. So he goes shopping with her. And they spend an obscene amount of money to the tune of Roy Orbison's Pretty Woman. And you're like, oh, it's the title of the movie. Fabulous.
I like an obscene amount of money on a shopping trip is look, I'm stepping out of line here, but I think it's the hooker dream, the actual dream. Gimme. I think for somebody, no strings attached, like, just to take me out and buy whatever the fuck I want, obscene amounts is Never has it happened to me or anyone I know. And it's, you know, people talk about it. People always, you know, like especially people who are like time wasters or, you know, back when I was sort of looking into sugar baby type stuff in my early sex work days, you know, I'll take you on a shopping spree, you know, and I want the pretty woman one. I don't mean take me out and buy me a jacket. I mean fucking obscene. I was thinking how much in today's, let's say, Australian dollars, would you consider an obscene amount of money on a shopping trip? Now, I was looking at the bags that she came back with and I was just really roughly guessing because it was all designer gear and she came back with a lot of stuff. And I'm thinking like the equivalent of today's, I'm going to say like $50,000 of stuff that she had.
Now, 50,000 was the number that came to my head.
So in today's dollars, what would I personally consider an obscene amount of money on a shopping trip? Like a clothes... I was thinking maybe like 10K.
Oh, I was thinking 50.
Were you? Okay, 10.
Oh, if it's obscene.
10 for me would be obscene.
It was same, but he really, you know, he was saying it was
selling
obscene.
it.
Like he was selling it. If you're going to talk a big game. But yes, I mean 10,000 would be phenomenal,
Absolutely.
but I don't know if that would get you. What would that get you?
I don't want I'm not a designer girly
from
though.
a design. Same, but that's like they're on Rodeo Drive, like they're not going to have a Supra
items. There. Like that's for me that's an obscene shit. That's fucking oof. Anyway,
I'd be fair. Look, I would not be turning it down. If anyone wants to spend $10,000 on me to go shopping, I'll take it. But
yeah, you reckon aim higher. You reckon that's not obscene.
Well, if I was in that situation and he was on Rodeo Drive and he was
I'm
going,
talking for us.
I'm spending, I'd be expecting that. For us. Yeah. I mean, I think if someone spent $1,000 on me of things I wanted, which is the very important caveat, I'd be pretty fucking chuffed.
It's not obscene. Sorry.
No, I agree. It's not obscene.
All right.
But do you want me to be realistic or not?
No, I want you to be obscene, but in our frame.
Okay. Well, yeah, maybe 10. Yeah. Fair. I don't know because this doesn't happen. You know,
so true. Okay.
I mean, yeah, some people will say that it does. I have had, when you said, oh, don't just buy me a jacket, that's what I've had. I've had someone bought me a jumper.
Love it. And we're not ungrateful. Just want to, we want to, but yeah, under the guise of this
But
story.
it was like a extended booking and I was like, fuck, I'm really cold. I need a jumper. I didn't bring, and so he was like, okay, do you want to go shopping and we'll get something? And so we went. And then when I picked out the jumper I wanted, he's like, I'll pay for it. And I was prepared to pay for it because I needed a jumper, you know.
Love it.
But yeah, so that was bloody awesome. And
that's absolutely lovely.
Yeah.
That's so sweet.
But yeah, that's the closest I've come to this.
Yeah. To an obscene shopping trip. Yeah.
People have definitely spent way too much money on buying me gifts, but they've not, like, it's very different to get a whole bunch of stuff that he wanted to buy you. Right. Than for him to take you shopping for you to pick out what you want, right?
Right.
That's very different.
I don't know. I think with the wish list era, I feel like it's all stuff like clients buy me things that I want.
That's
anyway.
not been my experience.
Right. Okay.
Like when people have bought me obscene amounts of gifts, they've gone and
things you
bought
don't want.
Like things that are quote unquote like considered luxurious or that all women want, and they're not things that I want. And I'm like, you've spent so much money on this.
Yeah, that's not good. Yeah, do not bring me a Chanel handbag.
Well, that's what. Yeah, they've been. Yeah, they've been handbags and. Oh, what's that awful jewelry brand? With the pendants. Any jewelry really?
Pandora or something.
Yes.
Oh, no. Yeah.
Pandora stuff.
Oh no. No. Yeah.
Anyway, like it's very lovely, but that's a case where it's more about them buying what they want. Than
yeah.
Anyway. Well, in that montage, at one point, she tries on the ugliest jacket I've ever seen in my life, and I just think that has to be acknowledged. It's like a black jacket with like maybe embroidered kind of flowers. It's awful. It's very bad. And I'm like, how did that make it into this montage? Very bad. But then, so she goes back to the cunty staff from before, to the first store she went into, and she tells them that they made a big mistake because they operate on commission.
Cringe. So cringe. As you said before, these people are working in a service, like they're probably not making that much money. And I get it. I know it's meant to be like a justice porn scene where you go, yay, the protagonist is, I get the point. But it also, as many of the people listening who would have worked in retail roles and service roles in their life, when people do that kind of thing, like, oh, I'm just never coming back, you're sort of like, okay, oh, fuck off.
I know.
Okay, bye.
Right. See you later. Yes.
So cringe.
But also, I've just realised, because, she talks about them working on commission, and before when I was talking about them being paid really poorly, I guess if they are in a rich store and they're earning commission, then maybe they're actually doing better than I thought. But I don't know. I'm not. There's no way of knowing. Yeah. I thought, so because I have this thing, I think one of the most uncomfortable things in this world is when somebody quotes like a movie to you. Like I never know what I'm supposed to do in that situation. All my life, I found it so deeply uncomfortable. It happens all the time. Oh my God, you do it all the time. What are you talking about?
Oh, that's just how I talk. That's all I know is movie.
Yeah, there's a lot of people like that.
Yeah,
a lot of people like that. A lot of clients are like that. When I've joked with it, like Mr. Love knows, because he quotes things all the time. I'm just like, okay, I don't know what's happened. You've just said a quote from a movie. It's really weird. Anyway, and whenever I then see the origin of what people are quoting, I'm always like, yeah, this is why. Because babes, like, I've heard that line said by so many people so badly. And then I was like, this is why we leave it to Julia fucking Roberts. Because she says that line with so much more nuance than I've ever had it spouted at me. Everyone always does it like too over the top. She is like, well, you made a mistake. Anyway, bye. Like, it's fucking brill the way she does it. And I just wish other people would stop saying it. That's all. Yep. So there's more important businessman talk with George. If there's no women in the scene, I don't pay attention. So I don't know what happened in that scene.
That whole the whole storyline of that was very boring. So I'm with you.
Yeah. Cool.
Unimportant.
And then Richard and Julia have these like deep chats in the bath. And I've got to point out a serious inaccuracy here, because that man, nothing will make me believe that man has gone to therapy.
You're right.
No way.
Agree. Yeah.
He is not a man who's gone to therapy.
No.
No way. No way.
Yeah.
Okay, so then they go to this polo match and Julia Roberts is wearing the greatest outfit.
She looks amazing.
Oh, it's perfection.
Yeah.
And then Richard Gere outs her to Costanza, and surprise, surprise, Costanza is a dick about it. Yeah. So she rightfully loses it at Richard Gere telling him that she's never had anyone make her feel as cheap as he did today. And he says he finds that very hard to believe.
Yeah.
Of course he does. But she's fucking right.
Yeah.
And of course he can't believe that, because he's not like all the other guys.
Yeah.
She asks for her money, but she decides against taking it, which is an interesting moment. She goes out to wait for the elevator to leave, but somehow he manages to convince her to stay. I'm not really sure how. I think because he says, he's getting jealous feelings, which should be another red flag to make you leave. But anyway, that's that.
I did notice in the polo scene, just quickly, they have that thing about polishing ladies' shoes. And I was like, that feels very kink adjacent, where the polo club members, they have a rule where they have to polish the ladies' shoes. And so the ladies have got to take their shoes off and the men clean. Like, it was just, I was like, wow, that is so secretly horny.
Very kinky.
Very kinky. Yeah. Yes. Okay. I did really like that when he was wrongfully disclosing her job to the lawyer, he didn't seem to belittle her job or be ashamed of it or try to justify it. It was very factual. Again, wrong disclosure. What he did was incorrect and silly. But there didn't seem to be any like, but she's this, but she's this, she's, any sort of, making up for it or making excuses. It was just, it is what it is. And I was impressed by that.
Yeah, agreed. And although, absolutely the wrong thing to do. And I really love that they showed how much it was the wrong thing to do. Like, they really showed that outing a sex worker is the most fucked thing you can do. I appreciate that. Like, I didn't expect them to go for that. But I also understand that they kind of gave him, there's no justification for doing it, but he did feel kind of backed into a corner, and he was like, and it's almost like he was using it as he was like, she's not a bad guy, she's just a hooker. And it's kind of like, so, not the right thing to do, but I kind of thought I don't know. Yeah, it's a better portrayal than I was expecting.
Yeah, it wasn't.
And I love that, she said that to him.
Yeah.
And I just thought, of course, he doesn't think he's done anything wrong. You know, he thinks, no, I've treated you well. You got to have strawberries and champagne.
Yeah,
Like,
and this
fuck
assumption
off.
that she's experienced she must have
Yes.
experienced such awful things that, there's that sort of underlying stigma, which is a bit gross. He says to her at somewhere in this argument, you are in fact a hooker and you are my employee. It was so gross. She had a rebuttal to him. I haven't noted exactly what it was, but it just felt like a real conversation. His total ignorance and his total being out of his depth at dealing with a sex worker and knowing how to handle himself and what was appropriate. And her responses were, as you said, really a good representation of how a sex worker would find those comments. And very progressive for the time. Very, very well dealt with.
And a very accurate portrayal of someone being really lovely to you. And then when you say, hold on, you fucked up, then being like, well, you're a whore, you know?
Yes.
Like, how often have we had that one?
Very
He
childish.
showed his true colours.
My notes here say in big capital letters, as if you wouldn't take the money though. And I know the point was that she's meant to be showing that she feels something for him and it's more than that to her and blah, blah, blah.
Just
but
take
you've done your job. Take your money.
Yeah. I don't know if that was the point. I think it's quite complex. Like, I think there was an element of, like, he threw it on the bed, which was fucking disrespectful. He didn't hand it to her. Yeah, I think there was an element of that. But I still, bitch, take the fucking money. What are you doing?
Yeah. I'm not better than paying my rent. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I found his apology quite sincere and fair. And like a fair bit of it was that he just wasn't prepared for this. And I think that that's valid. I think that, a lot of people would be out of their depth and he fucked up and we all fuck up. And it was a really believable conversation. I
do think it's frustrating when, like, I feel like I've had not similar situations, but situations where I can relate where, you know, I'm like, well, if you are taking me out in public, you need to think about how you're going to deal with that. Because I've had situations where someone said, oh, how did you two meet? And they've looked at me and I've gone, nah, bitch, I'm not. Because I will tell the truth. Don't look at me because I'll tell you exactly the story, but you don't want me to, right? So you need, like, So, they go back from the elevator, they lay in bed and she kind of talks about the circumstances that have led to this point in her life, which feels to me like they're trying to say, like, now the barriers are coming down and she's able to like talk about the real her kind of thing, which is fine, whatever.
I think her story of entering the industry was believable. It felt legit. But she says that she cried the whole time on her first booking. And that was absolutely horrific.
I found that really hard to hear. Yeah.
And that could be the case for some people. And I do, like, as a sex worker who is very protective of the industry in a lot of ways, it does get my skin sort of prickling. It makes me sort of feel like, oh, you're trying to paint sex workers as, you know, abused always or have entered in, you know, but sometimes people are in life and sometimes people have had bad times. And as much as I want to be like, well, that's you know, you guys are trying to make a sort of a caricature of a sex worker. I want to defend, but people do have bad experiences. But
it also, to me, sort of says, because the clients who aren't Richard Gere wouldn't stop if I was crying. You know, like, why did whatever that experience was, if she was that distraught by it,
why did it continue?
Why didn't it come to a very quick end? You know, and that makes me feel like they're showing that's what the other clients are like. But now she's found Richard Gere and he has a penthouse.
That's a very good
and people with penthouses would never.
Yeah,
you know?
That's a great explanation. Yeah, exactly why it rubs me the wrong way. You're right. That's exactly what it is. But that also is unfair, I think, to discount that people have. Yeah. So.
Yep. Agreed. Yeah. Same as you though. I gasped.
Yeah.
I was like, oh fucking hell! Like, that was unexpected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Heavy.
It's always interesting when, you know, because films can show really disturbing things. It's a visual medium, but sometimes someone just saying a few words can feel so violent. Like, it doesn't always need to be shown. The next day they go to the opera, and for some godforsaken reason she loves it.
I don't know why. It's awful.
Awful. And then he tells her that opening night never starts on time, which, like, I know we're here to represent the sex industry, but I've got to represent the theatre industry here because that is completely inaccurate. Perfect. I was like, this is stigma. Shut up.
Yeah.
Like, what? No, opening, you don't start... You start between, if it's an 8 o'clock start, you start between 8:02 and 8:05. Mm-hmm. That's my rule, and I will never sway from it. Then he reads her Shakespeare from a book called Shakespeare Quotations. He's not even like reading out a poem or sonnets. He's got a book of quotes, which is fucking weird.
Yeah.
And that, like, I just have to be clear that is not a good date move.
No.
Don't do that.
God, yeah.
Awful.
That's just the worst date ever.
Yeah. Yeah. But then somehow it works well because she kisses him on the fucking mouth.
Almost non-consensually, though.
Yeah.
He's asleep.
She thinks he's asleep.
Yeah. I mean, wow, girl. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. She's like, this is my boundary, but you don't get a say. Okay. And then, they bang, and then she tells him that she loves him, and he doesn't respond.
Yeah.
But there's plausible deniability, like he may have been pretending to be asleep. Like she can't see his face. So, but yeah, obviously they made such a big deal out of this. Her kissing him on the mouth means that it's something more than it is. And it's like, do anal beads mean it's something more than it is? Do nipple clamps mean that? Like it's just one sexual act, and putting all of this on that, I just think is really a really weird way of looking at sex. But anyway. So the next morning, he tells her that he has lined her up an apartment in New York, a driver, like unlimited, she can do shopping sprees whenever she wants. He says that this will get her, quote, off the streets. She's pretty offended by this, even though it sounds like an amazing offer.
I cannot believe you'd be offended by this. Like,
it sounds phenomenal. Especially when she's got her mate Maya, but that sounds like about it. Like it's not like she's got ties where she's living and whatever. Yeah. But anyway, she gets offended.
Oh, financial security, how dare you? The audacity of men.
Like, I mean, I would be offended actually that he did all that without asking me.
Yeah.
That to me, he's like, well, I've organised you an apartment, and I'd be like, hold on, what the fuck? Like that would shit me massively. But I'd be like, all right, let's talk. Let's negotiate this. Then she goes on to tell this story.
The story.
About how when she was a kid, she literally dreamed of a white knight coming to save her because her mum used to lock her in the attic. Like, what the fuck is that about? Let's go into that trauma. But that white knight never offered to buy her a condo. And it's like, yeah, because you were a kid, you didn't understand the fucking value of being given property. Like, you idiot. You like, as if you don't take that. Yeah. But then he says, I've never treated you like a prostitute, and walks off. And she says, you just did. Discuss.
Yeah, nothing to discuss. It's the whole thing's gross. It's so anti-feminist to be like, oh, man will come and take care of me. And I think that's...
But not in that particular way. Like, it's a weird mix, right?
Yeah, it is. It is. You're right. It's a woman who is clearly very confused, which, again, people in life are confused. So as much as I want to hold certain things in this film to certain standards, I must recognise that we are complex, flawed humans, and we do strange things as humans. But, it's it's just a take that I don't relate to. And when he says, I've never treated you like a prostitute, and she said, you just did, I mean, I disagree, but I understand that she had maybe expressed to him or there was some underlying indicators of what she was after, and she felt like he was relegating her back to a staff sort of feeling position, and that that felt like that felt shitty. So it was all poorly communicated, but I feel like I get what they were both saying. So, yeah.
Yeah, I was really confused by this whole scene. I really wasn't sure. Like, she was offended, but I feel like not by the right thing. and then he was doing a thing but doing it in the wrong way, and like it was just all very weird, which is, as you said, very realistic, very much how relationships are. I mean, you know, I think saying I've never treated you like a prostitute was the worst thing that he did in that scene.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe that's what she's referring to when she says you just did.
I'm
but
not
I'm
like the others.
100% sure. Yeah. And it's like, no, you paid for my services and we fucked. Like, what do you mean? You like, what are you not getting about this?
I found his emotional unavailability so unsexy. He says, it's all I'm capable of. It's a big step for me. Like, oh, you fucking baby. You absolute like, that is such a turn off. Oh, like, shut down my eroticism. You know, I'm not interested by. Just,
I told you, this man has not been to therapy.
no, absolutely
No
not.
way. So lame. Such a cop-out.
Mm-hmm. Such a cop-out.
So then Maya from Just Shoot Me comes to the hotel and you're like, yes, bitch is back. She looks cute as fuck. It's excellent. But we have to address that Julia Roberts is wearing a coral knee-length shorts suit.
I think she looks amazing.
Oh, it's unacceptable. She looks amazing because she does, but who made that?
The knee length is not doing it for me. Otherwise,
the knee length is a
10 out of
problem.
10.
Yeah, look, if it was a skirt or pants, fine. But the shorts is unacceptable.
Yeah, agree.
Absolutely unacceptable. Yeah. Oh, high-waisted and knee length? It's like fucking like knickerbockers. Like terrible. No. All right, so then Maya works out pretty quickly that Julia Roberts is in love with the dude. And again, we come back to the, oh my God, you kissed him. Oh my, you know, and it's like, oh, that's not, it's just two lips meeting, far out. He also had his dick
spell.
inside her.
Yeah.
Like, the hell?
Yeah.
Okay, so then Richard Gere has, so he does this other business meeting where it's like this is like the big one, right?
Oh, yeah.
This is the deciding meeting. They're in like a boardroom. It's all whatever. He goes against what George Costanza wants, and that upsets George because he's an insecure little man. Yep. So then George goes to the hotel to see Julia Roberts, and this is a pretty yuck scene to watch. He hits her and he tries to rape her. And then Mr. Gere comes in to save the day and pulls him off her.
I mean, it's a really rational response to a failed or a less lucrative business deal than expected is to go and rape the woman that
go do a raping.
Your business partners see. See. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I do whenever business offers fall through.
I get very rapey. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God, I'm so sorry that I laughed. It's just... Yeah. So anyway, obviously we're being very facetious and it's gross.
Oh, yeah.
But then also in like the next scene, like it cuts to George Costanza's being shoved out and Richard Gere is like tending to Julia Roberts. And he literally says, not all guys hit, like 2 seconds after he hit someone. Like, I'm like, but you do. Like, not all men, but definitely this guy. Like, what? And obviously it's that idea that, like, you know, hitting someone to defend her honor is okay, but hitting her isn't okay. And I would argue that hitting anyone is unacceptable and that if you've demonstrated the ability to hit someone, you've demonstrated the ability to hit anyone.
Okay.
But I have strong feelings about that. So she gets all packed up and ready to leave. She says that she doesn't want what he has to offer because she wants, quote, the fairy tale. I don't know why she wants that, but she does.
I think it's cute.
He talks, this coming back to what you said, he says his gift is impossible relationships, which is like, shut up and take some accountability.
Yes, stop making it like not your fault.
Yeah, I just always find myself in there. And it's like, no, you don't communicate. You're not emotionally available. Like, you are obsessed with your work and you prioritize that over your relationships.
Yep.
They're not impossible. You're not being good at being in relationships. But also, this isn't a relationship. But I know it's obviously blurring the lines at this point. He then asks her to stay the night, it seems like for free. Like he's like, stay the night, not because I'm paying you, but because you want to. And she clearly does want to, but she says, I can't. So she leaves. She says goodbye to Barney. They have a cute little chat. Again, a bit of solidarity. Like she's like, you and I live in the real world. Apparently not because she wants a fairy tale. But anyway, she gets in a taxi and she leaves. The end. What a cute movie. No. Psych. There's more. I was like, that's not a bad ending. The booking comes to an end. great. They had this whirlwind time. Nice. But no.
Yeah,
No.
I thought she was going to cry
There's
in the
more.
limo home.
Yeah.
No, she goes home.
Yeah.
Cool.
I was like, great though. Like that's where the movie can end. But no, there's another 7 minutes where Richard Gere fucking stalks her and turns up at her fucking house.
Nah. It's romantic.
No, it is not.
It's
Do
so
not.
romantic.
If you had said to a client, no, I can't, I'm leaving, and then he turned up at your fucking house, would you think that was romantic?
If we had like a very clear situation that this was a thing and that we'd had like...
He would tell you that you did. He would think that you did have a very clear situation.
No, but if I'd said, I want the fairy tale with you and all that sort of stuff, and he turned up outside with the rose and that, it's
unacceptable.
romantic.
No, it is not. It is completely unacceptable. It's a fucking crime. He needs to go to jail. She said, like, it's such an example of a woman saying no and a man ignoring it.
No, but it was like a no yes.
Oh, don't!
Yeah. He knew. It was
If it's not a yes,
a conditional
it's a no.
no. No, it was very clear that what her boundaries was I want a relationship with you that's romantic and like that you're fully in. And he was like, I can't do that. And she's like, okay, well then done. And so he obviously thought about it and decided, do you know what? I will commit to this. And so within
But he won't. He'll continue to be.
He might not. That's fine. But within the parameters of what they discussed, he decided that yes, he wanted to do that. And so he went to go and see if that offer was still on the table. And I think that's valid.
Yeah, we'll agree to disagree. Mm-hmm. I think the movie should have ended with her in the taxi. I thought that was a great ending.
I loved the little kiss on the little.
Fucked it. Oh yes, and he overcomes his fear of heights because he's so in love with her.
So romantic.
Ugh, disgusting.
Yeah, and the soundtrack, amazing, great soundtrack.
what?
The whole film.
Just in general.
Yeah. Well, then the soaring music, and it's this pretty woman, and there was so many great songs. It was a great soundtrack. Just the whole way through, I was bopping.
Yeah. Was that really cringe song she puts on though when she's naked waiting for him?
Oh, I don't remember that. Yes, there was some Roy Orbison and some Go West and some what's Natalie Cole.
Oh, it was like Kenny G or something.
Right.
It was like I think it was Kenny G. It was that kind of vibe anyway. It was like a saxophone, it was just like sex music, but that's fine.
Cute.
It's all good. I guess that was cool in the 90s. So, whatever.
Yeah.
So overall takeaways, what do you reckon, Holly?
Great film, iconic, 10 out of 10, love it forever. I think, look, it's not a perfect film, but there's so much to love. And I think for the time it was really progressive. And I think Julia Roberts is a timeless icon. I used to think that when I was quite young, I used to think Richard Gere was a bit of a hottie, but on the rewatch, I was like, he doesn't do anything for me now.
No.
But yeah, great. Loved it. Good portrayal. Great film.
Yeah. I think as I've said, I thought it was way better than I expected. Agreed. Julia Roberts is so great. I feel like I've definitely seen her in things, but like maybe not that much or something. And I certainly not at that age. I was like, fuck, she's fantastic. She did get a Best Actress nomination for it, which I think is deserved.
Well earned. Yeah.
Interestingly, so I similar to you, like I think actually not bad overall, but there certainly were some issues with it. And I think that really it's not the film's fault, but the way that it has become so like
the legacy. Yeah.
The legacy is a problem, maybe. But that's not their fault. It was interesting. I looked up like criticism just like 15 minutes before we were recording. I finally finished watching it because my big criticism is that it was just kind of boring, but that's a romantic comedy for you. It's not my style, so I'm not really qualified to talk about it. But I finally finished it this morning. I watched the last half hour and then I Googled like criticisms of it. And I was expecting it to be like criticisms from sex workers, right? I was expecting to find the sort of stuff that you and I had made notes on. Okay. But a lot of the criticisms of it are that it like glorifies sex work. I was like, oh, right, okay, well, cool. And I actually don't think it does. Like, yes, it portrays this absurd situation, which is not realistic, but it also covers a lot of negatives about sex work.
Yeah.
Like, I don't, there's these articles written where they're like, women go into the sex trade
of course.
because they've watched this movie and they think it's going to be like that. And it's like, well, the movie within the first 4 minutes shows a dead hooker. They talk about her crying throughout the duration of her first booking. She gets physically assaulted and there's an attempted sexual assault. She gets outed. Like, she gets treated, what's, other than the love...
Yeah.
There's, I think it's actually shows kind of, it's actually surprisingly nuanced, I guess.
Agree.
Well, thanks for forcing me to watch it.
I mean,
you didn't.
You've watched worse. So that's...
And also, I thought I'd seen it before.
Yeah.
But then when I was watching it, I was like, I don't know if I have seen this before. But maybe it was very boring. So maybe I just tuned out.
I think that for you, rom-coms is all very formulaic, generic, sort of, quite unexciting. So I can understand that was not thrilling for you. But as far as sex worker media goes, and non-sex worker informed media, I'm assuming, they may have had some consultation there, but I don't imagine much.
Yeah, I doubt it.
As far as it goes, not bad. Yeah, and I'm a sucker for a rom-com, so I love it. Yeah.
Cute.
As always, a massive thanks to our incredible patrons. Thanks to our new very generous somebodies, Mike and Olivia. Our even more generous somebodies, the Riley McDonald, the Desiree Frambois, the Ashley Stafford, the Rhiannon Rhodes, Lachlan, Timmy, Steve, Adele, Scott C., Leslie, Sub London, NK, Andrew, Wheezy, Mr. E, Simon, Nomad, Luke, Frankie, Cuddle Koala, Witty Comment, Alex and David. And finally, an extremely generous thanks to our extremely generous somebodies, the Madison Jones, Aaron, Andrew, Adam Smith, Pete, the Sienna Actual Literal Saint, Tim and Tom.
All right. Thanks so much for joining us. Feel free to let us know what you think, because I imagine particularly people in the industry will have different takes on this. I'm sure there are some that love it and plenty that hate it, but yeah.
Yeah. Let us know what you think of our opinions, if you agree with us, if you think that one of us is egregiously wrong. We always love the feedback and the interaction on these kinds of things and want to hear what the rest of you think.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye. Please look out for us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Patreon. Our name everywhere is Somebody You Pod, as in podcast. Our Patreon starts at just $3 a month, and you can get all of our episodes ad-free and a day early, plus bonus episodes, behind-the-scenes action, bloopers, and more. Thank you for taking the time to listen to the voices of sex workers. And remember, somebody you love might just be a sex worker.